Hello my friends, welcome to my corner. I wanted to do a book haul because it's been a while since the last one that I did, and I also have a lot of books, movies, and albums here in this corner of my room that I can, after this video, take to the office or some other place so that they're not here in my room in a place where I can't even walk or anything. So I'm going to follow a random order. I'm going to show you some books, some movies, and some albums that I have acquired in the past few months, probably because it's been a while since the last one. So I'm going to start randomly with some albums that I have here. These are 3 CDs. So I have So Far by Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. I will confess I bought this one just because of the 2 songs, Ohio and Find the Cost of Freedom. It was on clearance, so I didn't feel as guilty, buying an entire album basically because of those 2 tracks, because I already have the first 2 albums by them. I also got The Great Disintegration by The Cure, which is a fantastic album that, if you have not heard, I highly recommend to you. And the other one that I have right here is, of course, Auto American by Blondie. This one arrived just the other day. I just listened to it today, and I was, of course, blown away, as I was expecting to be. Anyway, so let me show you some books now, just randomly. I found 4 Past Midnight by Stephen King in this particular edition, which is the one that I always look for, because these were the ones that were being published back when I started reading Stephen King. So whenever I get the chance to buy this particular print, this particular edition, I go for this one, and I was missing this book in my collection. Then I went to a library sale and I found 1 book and 5 movies that I'm gonna show you here. So I have From Here to Eternity, which I watched a long time ago when I was doing all the winners of the Academy Award for Best Picture, so I want to watch it again because it's been a while. Then I found Once Upon a Time in the West. All of these were maybe 50 cents or $1, I don't remember, but library sales are just amazing and I always go. So Blood Diamond, a movie that was recommended by one of my students maybe like 5 years ago or something like that, that I had not seen, and I was like, wow, such an amazing movie, why had I not heard of this? So I'm glad that my students always recommend very good stuff to me. And I also found the widescreen edition of the first 2 Lord of the Rings movies. I bought these when they came out, but I bought the full screen version because back then I had a square screened TV, so I thought that it would be better to get the full screen edition, and now I'm like, I want to see the complete picture. So I am hoping that the next time that I go to that library for their next sale, the person who sold or donated these 2 maybe has donated the 3rd one. So I am on the lookout for that. And I found also a book that I will probably tell you about one of these days, Graham Greene's The End of the Affair. Now I do have a copy of this book, also the Penguin edition, but I really like these deluxe classics. It has a new introduction, it has notes and stuff like that. So I was like, if I'm going to reread a book, sometimes if I can get a copy that is affordable, I like to read a different copy. I don't know why, but that's just me. Let me show you something completely random here, and I'm gonna have to do a close-up for this one. This is a stone that my mother gave me. So this was a present from my mother. It has 7 colors for each one of the chakras. So I thought that was really cool, and I just wanted to show you that. More movies I have here. These were from, actually this one I have already shown you, The Red Turtle, so you can look for that one in the previous book haul probably. I found The Apartment, another winner of the Academy Award. This was from a Goodwill sale, so I went to Goodwill, and I'm going to show you some books that I found there that were just amazing to me. Actually, let's do that now since we are talking about that. So please never look down on the Goodwill store, because this is what I found this time. They had 6 Memos for the Next Millennium by Italo Calvino. I was like, wow, I really wanted to read this book because it's about writing, and I have recently told you about his novel If on a Winter's Night, Traveler. I do want to read more by Calvino, and this non-fiction book about writing seemed like a very good thing. And then I found this beautiful edition of the short stories of F. Scott Fitzgerald. You know how it is with Fitzgerald. It's like everybody, myself included, reads The Great Gatsby and nobody pays attention to the other books. Maybe somebody reads Tender is the Night, maybe This Side of Paradise. But the short stories, the ones that I read back in the day when I took a course on Hemingway and Fitzgerald, the short stories are really good too. So I want to experience more of those. And this book has quite a few of them. I don't remember exactly how many, and right now I'm probably not going to find it, but this is supposed to be, 43. Here it is, 43 sparkling masterpieces. So I do want to check out more of the stories of F. Scott Fitzgerald. And then I have something that may surprise you. This is John Green's An Abundance of Catherines. Here's something about me that you may not know. I really want to try my hand at writing a young adult novel one of these days. But here's the thing, I've never read that I know of, or conscientiously a young adult novel. So I don't really know what to expect, which could be a good thing, because as a writer, if you write about something that you don't know that much about, then you're just not going to fall into the same old cliches. Maybe you have a fresh view of the thing, but you still want to have a kind of an idea what it's about, and I thought this would be a really nice place to start. And then I have a book. This was not from the Goodwill store, but I have shown you this in a previous video, the one that I did on Hong Kong, and I bought it from Half Price Books. This is The Land of Green Plums by Herta Müller. And I do want to tell you about this one because, of course, I'm doing the Nobel Prize in Literature winners. So that seems appropriate. Let me show you some more movies that I have here. It's going to be difficult here to keep track of what I have shown you, but, it's kind of a mess here, so please bear with me. At a library sale, I found An Education. I have seen this one, but it's been a while, and I want to check it out again. These were also from a library sale. Rain Man right here. I also watched this recently and I really liked it. I was like, if it's $1, I would like to have a copy. Then one of my favorite movies, a movie that has made me laugh so much, which is of course The Big Lebowski. And this was long overdue for me. Okay, I needed to have a copy of this, and I've been meaning to get one for a very, very long time, because as you may know, my favorite band, of course, is the Ramones, right? And I did not have a copy of the film Rock and Roll High School. So I was like, that's criminal. Okay, if you're a fan of the Ramones, you need to have a copy of this one. I even managed to get the one that has the really nice cover that looks almost like the original one. So I'm looking forward to watching this maybe in a day or two. And as a companion piece to that, I got something that I was missing from my collection of Ramones albums, which is the Rock and Roll High School soundtrack. Okay, I was missing this song right here, Come On Let's Go, the Paley Brothers and the Ramones. I mean, the Ramones are just playing here, but I felt that I needed to have that. And a couple more movies. This one was also from the Goodwill store, Airplane. I have not seen this movie, okay? Can you believe that? So I'm gonna do something about that probably today or tomorrow, because I really need a laugh, okay? It's been a very, very rough last couple of months. That's one of the reasons why I have not done videos as consistently as I used to. So I'm slowly but surely getting back on track, hopefully, so we'll see how that progresses. And then also at the same Goodwill store, they had Vampire Hunter D, which is this one is from the UK, as you can tell by the little rating sticker or seal right there. So I have seen this, but it's another movie that I would like to watch again. And here's something that I ordered through the internet from Amazon.com. This is a video game. Okay, now for a little bit of context here, I'm a huge fan of the good old LucasArts games. We call them graphic adventure in Spanish, but I'm talking about Maniac Mansion, Day of the Tentacle, Sam and Max, the Indiana Jones, like Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis, The Dig, Full Throttle. You know what I'm talking about, right? And there was one game that I always wanted to play, because it's not a LucasArts game, but it's kind of in the same I guess the same style of play, and it's kind of like the next best thing if you ask me. So this is Simon the Sorcerer 2. It's a game from the UK, and this was one thing that since I was a teenager I had been meaning to get, and I wanted to play it. And I looked it up on Amazon and I was like, wow, they do have a copy. It was not expensive at all, so I was really happy. I was like, this is the time, I need to get a copy of that so that I can finally play it. So I'm in the process of doing that. I'm gonna leave these books for last because they're more recent. My brother has been looking for some Rolling Stones albums, and he found quite a few of them, and I'm gonna show you those. So here we have their debut album, which is pretty much a cover album if you think about it, because I think there's only no, this is correct. There's only one song that was written by Jaggers Richards, which is "Tell Me," right? But it's kind of a generic song anyway, so even that song could be considered to be a cover depending on how you look at it. Then he also got "Out of Our Heads." This is one of my favorite Rolling Stones albums. A couple of live ones. We have here "Got Live If You Want It," and we also have the classic "Get Your Yayas Out," which I still need to listen to. And here's another one that he was missing from his collection, the ones that he wants to get at least, and that is Voodoo Lounge, which I still have not heard. So that's another thing that I need to get busy about. I think he's only missing Undercover and Dirty Work. You know, those two albums from the 80s that do not get a lot of attention. So I'm also looking forward to the moment that he gets those so that I can also finally listen to them. And another one that he found, he is also a fan of The Who, and he is looking for those albums, and he found here By Numbers, okay, which is another one that I am not familiar with. So the good thing here is that we share things with my brother. He's literally next door, so you know, all I need to do is just go to his room and just grab whatever music I want to listen to. And the same goes for him. I have my music here, though he doesn't do that very often, so he, I guess, listens to what he has in his room. Here's a book that I found at one of those dollar stores, and it's titled "At Night All Blood is Black" by David Diop. I was like, wow, you know, this looks like a brief novel, which I really appreciate. I like those short novels, and I am really, you know, looking forward to reading it. It was the winner of the 2021 International Booker Prize, so it seems like, you know, something that I might enjoy. I don't even know where to put the books right here. At the library of my workplace, they had a sale also, and I found The Witches, which is, you know, I've seen the movie. It's something that I am somewhat familiar with, but I've never read anything by this author. So that's something also that I need to kind of do something about. At Half Price Books, I found this text titled "New German Self-Taught." It was $5. I thought, you know, I've always wanted to learn German. I have many friends from Germany, so hello. But you know, this is something that I want to read in order to at least acquire some kind of you know, rudimentary knowledge of the language. I am pretty sure that I am not going to learn their language just by reading this book, as the title seems to suggest. But still, you know, I think it's a good starting point. So that's what I'm going to do. This is a book that I saw in Spanish at my mother's little bookcase. I had always been intrigued by it. Mr. God, This Is Hannah by Finn. Okay, so it's one of those classics, right? Many people have read this, but I haven't. So I want to see what it's like. Maybe I can tell you about it in a video, because I think that would be an interesting video, kind of unexpected, from me at least, to do. Then there's a very important novel that is turning 100. It literally turned 100 this past month in November, right? So I read this novel a long time ago, or not a long time ago, but maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And the result was kind of perplexing to me. It did not have the effect on me that I was expecting. But it is a novel that the author has said it needs to be read twice. I don't know if he was being tongue-in-cheek, he probably was. But here's the thing. I thought, I'm going to read it in November of 2024 because it's turning 100 and it's a huge, very important novel. But I could not do that because of many reasons, many health issues that I have been experiencing. And the interesting thing was that right before that, before November arrived, I was able to find a copy of the Modern Library hardcover edition of that novel. And I love the Modern Library. So I was like, wow, you know, this is a sign. It means that I need to read it. I am talking about The Magic Mountain. I was at Half Price Books and I saw this edition. I had never seen it before. I was so happy. Unfortunately, as I said, I could not read it in November, but you know, I'm gonna do that probably within the next few months. I was also looking for this other book for a very long time. This is a novel, Felicia's Journey by William Trevor. I have read only one thing by William Trevor. It's a little novella titled Nights at the Alexandra, and I absolutely loved it. And I had heard many, many good things about this one. I read it, I liked it. I was even planning to make a video on it, but I didn't like it enough. You know what I mean? It's like when you read something and you're like, this is good, but I don't know, it didn't blow me away or anything like that. I watched the movie, which has a very different type of ending to the book. But as I said, I think it's good. I enjoyed the read, but it didn't really, meet my expectations based on what other people were saying about it. I am also a fan, and I can't believe I haven't done any videos about her, of Penelope Fitzgerald. She is one of my absolute favorite authors. I've read everything, all the fiction that I could find by her. And I have all the books, but I was missing one. And I finally was like, okay, let's get a copy. We need to have a copy of this book. I am talking about At Freddy's. Okay, really good one. I highly recommend it. Maybe not her best, but still really, really good. I'm not quite sure which one is my favorite by her. That would be a very difficult decision to make. But I am going to tell you about her one of these days. Hopefully I can tell you about all of her novels, because I have deep admiration for her, and I enjoyed reading all of them very much. In a previous video that I did on some great novellas that everybody should read, I told you about The True Story of A.Q. by Luc Sun. So I was finally able to find at Half Price Books this wonderful edition of his complete fiction, and I just had to get a copy of it. I do want to make a video on Luc Sun and tell you about it, his work, in a little bit more detail, other than that famous novella that most people read. Have some more books here. This was from a library sale. It's by Mariano Vaquero Goyanes, Estructuras de la Novela Actual. So it's a book of criticism on structures of the modern novel. It may be a little bit dated because it looks a little bit old, but it still gives you some insight. I'm also a fan of Willa Cather, okay, and this is A Lost Lady. It says here that it's a bit of a it's composed like something like an answer to Madame Bovary. So I'm interested in this book by her, and it's not mentioned a lot. Many people mention My Antonia or Death Comes for the Archbishop, but not this one. So I found it there at the library sale, and I thought, why not? And here I have a book from Argentina that was actually mentioned by my friend Leandro. So thank you so much. Muchas gracias, Leandro. Because I had not heard of this, and I can't believe that. It's a bit of a cult classic. It's titled Plop by Rafael Pinedo. They say it's a very dark little novel or novella. I still don't know because I haven't read it, but I'm really looking forward to checking it out based on what people are saying about it. Then I have here by Mary Oliver, a poetry handbook, maybe to learn a little bit more about how to write poetry, and this is coming from a poet's perspective, so that is a plus right there. And here's a little book that I bought inspired by my friend Ralph. This is Severin's Journey into the Dark by Paul Lepine. It sounds like something, it's really short, really brief, sounds like one of those poetic type of fiction kind of text, that I really, really enjoy. So that's all that I can tell you about it based on what I know. So I'll tell you a little bit more hopefully in the future when I do get the chance to read it. Another time I went to another library sale and I found William Styron's Darkness Visible, a memoir of madness. That is very interesting because I have just told you about Aurélia by Gérard de Nerval, which is also considered to be a memoir of madness. So it would be interesting to compare those two. Here I have the complete novels of Ebe Uhart. Not very long, okay, so she has more short stories than novels. So I do want to check out her longer works because I am rather familiar with her shorter stories, but this is something that I'm really looking forward to experiencing. And at the same library sale that I have told you about before, I found The Hero with a Thousand Faces by Joseph Campbell. This is a classic study of the journey of the hero, which is something that I have always been interested in, basically since we started talking about this idea, this concept of the hero. Back when I was in Argentina and I was in high school, I had a professor, her name was Patricia, and I always remember her, who told us about this when we were talking about Mio Cid, right? El Cid. So I've told you about El Cid in a previous video. So I've always wanted to read more about this journey of the hero. Then I also have here a couple more books that I found at the library. They have like a little bookstore. It's kind of like you make a donation and they give you the book. And they had the Consolations of Philosophy by Alain de Botton. I really enjoyed his book on Proust, so I want to read this one too, on several philosophers. And I found this one I got because it was very affordable, probably $1 or something like that. It's a book that I have shown you before in Spanish, but they had the English edition of The Labyrinth of Solitude and other essays and other texts by Octavio Paz. So that's another thing in the future that I would like to do for my little Nobel Prize series. I have here the original complete series of Transformers. I grew up with it, so I couldn't help it. I just had to get that. At another library, I found Till We Have Faces by C.S. Lewis, which is something that I haven't read by him. I've read many books by C.S. Lewis. I took a course on him, so that explains why. And this is one of the books that we did not read on that occasion. And then this is the kind of like the last, before I show you those books, let me show you a couple of albums here that I got recently. Al Stewart's Past, Present, and Future. I've shown you before Year of the Cat, and I really enjoyed it. So I was like, I'm going to get this one, and it was really, really good. And then at Walmart, I went there maybe a couple of weeks ago, and I found this beautiful thing. It was just there waiting for me. It was glowing, which is the reissue, the 40th anniversary LP edition of Iron Maiden's Power Slave. Okay, Power Slave is not my favorite album by Iron Maiden. That would be Killers. But I tell myself, if I had to look back, and leave aside my personal preferences and everything, Power Slave, I think you could make a case of it being their masterpiece. And this is the anniversary edition. It's so beautiful that I haven't even opened it yet, I don't know if that happens to you, but sometimes I feel like, I don't want to desecrate the album, by opening it. Of course, I need to listen to it, but, maybe if you have that thing too that you do, you take a while before you open something, just let me know so that I don't feel so bad about myself. And then let me see if I have something, if I'm forgetting anything. I guess I can show you this. This is my calendar for next year. So there it is. This was from a dollar store. Otherwise, they're too expensive. And I went to Half Price Books about a week ago, and I found some really, really cool Cátedra editions. I like the Cátedra editions for my Spanish books. This is Martín Rivas by Alberto Blest Gana. It's probably like Chile's national novel, if you will, from the 19th century. They had a copy of La Tregua, The Truce, by Mario Benedetti. I do want to tell you about this one also because there are 4 authors from Uruguay that I absolutely love. I've told you about Felisberto Hernández. I have already told you also about Juan Carlos Onetti, of course. And then we have Benedetti and, of course, Horacio Quiroga. I have a really good personal story with Horacio Quiroga, so I am going to tell you about that in the future. And then the other one that I found is the great Argentine novel by Ricardo Guiraldes, Don Segundo Sombra. As you may know, there are 2 famous gauchos in the literature of Argentina, Martín Fierro, in that poem, right, by José Hernández, and then you have this novel by Ricardo Guiraldes, Don Segundo Sombra. So I have these books, but I really wanted to have the Cátedra edition just to get a little bit extra there. And then I was really happy to find here a book that my friend Palomita had just mentioned. I was like, she had just written a comment to me about this book. I went to Half Price Books and I saw it there in Spanish. I was like, wow, this is a sign. And the one that I'm talking about is José Donoso's Historia Personal del Boom. I have told you about The Obscene Bird of Night by José Donoso. He wrote a memoir about the boom, talking about the other authors. As you know, they were all friends, so you get a really intimate view of that with this book right here that I'm planning to read soon. And then finally, the last thing that I want to do is, actually, I want to make you suffer a little bit, okay? But it's okay. I have some books here that I do want to tell you about, so just as a preview. This one is from Germany, but it's in Spanish, so it's the Spanish translation. Then I have one here from Russia, one from France, and one from Latin America that has just been published by one of my favorite authors. So hopefully, that is something that we can look forward to. So that's pretty much what I have acquired in the past few months, and I wanted to share that with you. Please let me know if there are any books here that you're interested in, if there's anything that you have read, anything that you like, anything that you're a fan of. I always like to hear about that. And of course, your questions, comments, recommendations, and recipes are always welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by, and have a wonderful day.